So decided to assemble this group tonight. We were originally going to do this on the couch, but I looked up the weight restriction on my couch, and we couldn't do it on the couch.
Tough crowd.
Yeah.
You couldn't do what on the couch?
We should have done it on the beach in Cuba.
But we did. So anyways, we've assembled this group from left to right. There'll be Charles Sim on the end, Tim Baker in the middle, Ryan Flaro, and myself. But so the reason why I wanted to do this is mainly, we've all read probably 5 or 6 threads on Facebook lately about tournaments and what's wrong with tournaments and why isn't things kind of lining up for everybody success-wise, and we wanted to kind of hash that out, kind of our theories as to why it's happening, and then maybe some of the good things that are happening. Maybe we might get into some of the bad things that are happening, but probably not. It's going to be, we're not here to lynch anybody. That's the last thing I want to do, but it's more of an open discussion from various points of view as to why things might not be working, because in my opinion, nothing's really working from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of, the big tournaments are kind of flailing along. They're all kind of eating each other's boats, per se. But maybe you can give us an idea why you think it might not be working, or what is working, or whatever. But
Well, I've been fishing tournaments since '99, and one of the biggest things I've seen over the years is the number of options available just have increased tremendously. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this in preparation for tonight. There's a whole myriad of reasons why somebody does or doesn't fish a tournament, be it the location, the cost, the traveling distance. Then you get into like the negative things. They don't like a certain organization or a certain person. There's just literally an unlimited number of reasons.
And they have other options.
And that's the biggest thing, is the options. And if you get, like, you look at locally here in Ottawa, there was a really good club years ago, and you got political infighting, and the club split up. So there's always stuff going on, new organizations being born and dying. But I think it's the options available and the cost, the ultimate cost. Like when I started fishing tournaments, gas was 65 cents. Hotels were cheaper. Fast forward 15 years, gas is $1, hotels are more expensive, and the entry and payback's the same. So it's very difficult to make your nut, so to speak.
So I think even, like, I personally looked at fishing a tournament last year. I looked at fishing the Thousand Islands Open. Great payback, everything made sense until I sat down and actually did the math on what it was going to physically cost me out of my pocket to go and fish that tournament. And it was, if I wanted to spend a week pre-fishing, which I'm going to guess the majority of the guys were going to do. So it's a week off work, hotels, gas, it was $3,000 before I even cast the line in the tournament. Now, even with the outstanding payout, even if I finish 30th, I'm still $2,000 in the hole to go and do it, right? So I think the payoff for a lot of guys, and I'm not a tournament guy by any means, and that's why you guys are kind of here, because I struggle with what the payback of your effort and time and everything else is. So I'm just curious, like, what drives you to say sign up and fish a tour, right? That you have to travel across the province and do that kind of thing. Because the math wise for me, it just doesn't make any sense, right?
I think it's different for everyone. Everyone has different goals, and people's goals change from year to year.
I agree with you. I agree with you that, but I think we're in Canada here, and we're not down in the U.S. fishing a tournament for $500,000 or $250,000. And we could argue till we're blue in the face about which series is better and which one is, But at the end of the day, my personal opinion is, if you don't buy a $100,000 boat or electronics and this and that to go into, you can't be looking at to go make money in this area. And for my reason, it's nice to win a tournament and make $4,000 or $5,000 in a tour. But if we all work for a living, if we take a week off work and are pre-fishing, and you know, if the boats are 50 or 60 or 70 or $80,000, you know, if you take that into economy with what you're actually winning, you can't look at it that way. I think the biggest thing is though, guys are going into the tournaments because they want to fish, you know, against, you know, not just name drop, but you know, against the Izumis, Charles, you know, Tim. They, you know, I think that's a big thing. The guys want to rub shoulders, you know, and I think that's the tournaments now, from what I see, whether it be B1 or the Thousand Islands Open or, you know, FLW, the angler meeting is a big thing. A lot of guys get more hyped up for an angler meeting than because that's
They know they can do it on
you know,
Friday night, and
you know,
they don't have to fish the next day.
you know,
That's cheaper.
That's key for what I think. You know, if I looked like 4 or 5 years ago, I never fished the Thousand Islands Open. I go up there, and of course, Charles, you see his name in the paper, or social media today, or Bob Azumi, or
Yeah,
Chris
dude,
Johnson, but
Dude's overrated.
yeah, I know.
It's overrated.
So much.
No, but whether it be Chris Johnson or Cal Clemson and Corey,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I get it, right?
You got some
Yeah.
of the best sticks in the industry.
Yeah.
Did I go in that tournament to beat them? Yeah, of course everybody has a dream of beating them, but it's like you're rubbing shoulders. I think that's the way the tournament industry is going. If you have the mentality that, well, if you're going to count from first to fifth spot, how much money you're going to make, I think it's the wrong thing here. North of the border, I believe.
At the end of the day,
I
at the end
believe.
of the day, it's a hobby.
It's a hobby. It's an
Right?
expensive hobby.
Like even say Charter who
Yeah.
fishes anything he can possibly fish,
Yeah.
right? Anything. And I was looking at his Renegade stats the other day. It's like insane. There's like
Amazing.
76 tournaments fished, and he's cashing 44
You know,
checks.
we
But if he did his math, he's probably not making a lot of money.
It's funny we
Yeah, lost.
we had
right?
this same conversation and we were talking about.
I don't know about Challenger and Brownridge. I think they're on
They
the
do,
plus
they
side.
do okay.
You know,
they
we
won a
can.
boat, right? They won a class,
Yeah.
right? So they're that's the golden nugget at the end of the year.
So if I'm the new angler that hasn't been in the series that long, and I go to the Renegade website and I can say, okay, Lenny Vivos has cashed 36 checks out of 52 tournaments. You know, it's like those are incredible numbers. So what does it mean?
But I think for a new angler, there's a lot of almost too many kind of entry level options from OBN clubs to walk-on shootout series to locally BAA. If you get out in the west of Ontario, you got like the TBT.
TBF.
Yeah, it's the CBF. There's
CBF.
just so
CBF.
many options,
Yeah.
and you know, like you said, we read this on the Facebook post that it's a limited pie. And although I do believe from 15 years ago there's more people fishing, I actually think because there's more options,
It looks diluted.
and it is that.
Your first comment was the total truth of this is that we're here speaking of Eastern Ontario specifically.
Yeah, Eastern Ontario, and then the
that
events that
the
are
bass
close.
fishing tournament scene is polluted with stuff to do.
Yeah.
So you have, I bet if you tried and added them all up, there's at least 20 options.
Yeah.
I bet. The clubs, the series, all the
When I did the
circuits.
calendar last year for Fish Hawk,
Oh, it's nuts.
where we put all the events,
Yeah.
every event from within, I think we had limited to within an hour drive of Ottawa.
Yeah.
There was over 100 tournaments
There you go, yeah.
that I had to put like from Quebec side, from
Yeah.
over here,
And
over
it's
100
crazy.
tournaments, right?
And like
So
you said,
you're spreading it
There's,
thin.
there's certainly more people fishing, but with that many options in that, and then you get the guys who just want to fun fish as well, maybe they're not into that pressure of a tournament or that, then that's what you see, I think, especially February. in
Well,
terms
and
of looking
that's
at
another thing,
team
because
sign-ups.
like if you look at the team signups now, it's like everyone's bombing, right? And we see the Facebook ads.
No,
right?
I disagree with that. I
B1
disagree.
And FLW, and you see Renegade, they're all
The
trying.
numbers are down.
The numbers are down for signups, right? But it might not be.
You say that
February's tricky, right?
February's chicory, but
Yeah.
you know, you look at the Thousand Islands Open. How many are signed up for it? That's going to sell out.
66. The Thousand Islands Open should sell out.
Okay.
It's, in my opinion, the best deal going. Not to do too much advertising or marketing, but so if I go back to when I first got into tournament fishing and I was kind of learning about the industry and stuff, I made a decision, or a thought, what I would think would be the best series would be something with 100% payback, where 20% of the field gets double their money, and first gets about 20 times the entry. 1,000 Island Opens is getting close to that, but a lot of series don't. So the 1,000 Island Open, it's at 66 teams right now, and it amazes me every year that it doesn't sell out with $100,000 being guaranteed.
Plus a boat.
Plus a boat.
Plus a boat.
And
Right?
Yeah,
But
what
what I
about
have a
contingency,
problem,
though?
what I have a problem with is guys that complain that they don't give the boat to the first base.
And I've talked
I'm
to
like,
these people,
what?
and I've
Like,
talked to
I
these people,
seriously?
and I
What?
say, take the boat out of the equation.
Yeah, it's still a great
It's
tournament.
still a great tournament, and the addition of the boat, it's incentive to, it changes things up, it's incentive to maybe bring some people in. And I spoke to people who fish it, who know they can't win.
Well,
But
hell,
they're
I
there
was
for
one
the
of them
boat.
until I did
Yeah.
the math.
Yeah.
Right?
Stop doing the math.
I did the math. Like, but it's a large commitment to go
Yeah.
and fish that tournament.
Yeah, do the math on every tournament,
It's, but in that case,
It's a gamble.
It's
It's
a
really
it's
what it is.
100% gamble. But I know if I'm going to fish 1,000 Islands Open, I can tell you 10 teams that are going to win out of the 100 that are going to sign up. That it'll be one of those 10 teams. So everyone else is kind of playing for a pie and a keep in that scenario, right? So
But
that's a great
what's good about
opportunity
it
for the rest of the guys that
because the depth
won't
of
be in that
payout
tent.
is, it pays deeper, which is more incentive for those guys who know they're not gonna win.
For sure. Yeah.
You have a chance.
Sure.
You have a chance.
To get some money back.
Something, yeah.
And if you finish in the top 50, you turn the key.
Like I've personally been turned off events in the past where I finish in the top 10% or 5% and don't even make double my entry fee. Like I'm losing money right off the top of the bat.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
tricky.
mean,
But I think they all offer something different.
right.
They all really do. You know what I mean? We can talk about FLW. Corey's done. He's put a lot of eggs in one basket. And it's crazy, right? And good for him for trying to do it. My thinking is, how many guys really want to go and fish in the U.S. that truly want to 100% win that tournament, and that their drive, local guys that are, or even guys from Ontario as a whole, how many teams are that gung-ho to then take that next step and invest that money to go and
Well,
win?
I think there's more than there used to be. I honestly think there's
Well,
more than there used
because
to be.
now there's a lot more exposure down south that they want to be part of that, right? But once you get into that, and the guys that have won and gone down and spent a pile of time and a pile of their own money to do it, maybe that's not as rosy as everyone thinks. Like you can read the articles. Like JT Kenny wrote an article last week. He's finally making money on tour. Finally,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's not that rosy down there.
I don't think you can look at a tournament and say, listen, they're paying out $50,000 or $100,000, and you're going. If you're strictly looking at it for the payout, from my perspective, and going in to make money, you can't look at it that way. Is it a hobby? Is it a passion? Is it rubbing elbows with the biggest names in the industry? I think that's the way most of the people are looking at it. You look at some of these boats and motors and trucks and cars. If you if you figure out that you actually have invested into it, time. We all pre-fish because we love fishing. I think it's a hobby. It's a passion. I know. If we didn't have tournaments, would we still fish? Yeah, we would. We know we still would. I think that's the key point. That if there was no tournament series anymore, we'd be sitting here saying, "Damn, there's no tournaments. What are we going to do now?" But we'd still be fishing.
You'd still be fishing.
And it's more of a hobby. But I think what the problem is, we've went twofold, and we're trying to make our hobby into a living of making, money or
I don't know if anybody has that big of blinders on it. I think they're going to make a living out of it. Because right now there's 4 or 5 Canadians that do,
Yeah, that's it.
And they don't do it here.
And
they don't do it here. They don't do it here.
They
You gotta
don't
go to
do
the
it
States.
here.
yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Does it cover their expenses? I think that's the main thing. I think let's go back a couple of years ago when you had a phenomenal season. Did you cover your expenses?
Well, I was just going to talk about that. A few seasons I do, a few I don't. And the ones where I do, I just kind of barely.
Yeah.
I was talking to Pete Garnier last week, good buddy of mine, and he was just saying he uses a lot financial survival.
Yeah.
Making enough money that it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And if you can profit
Breaking even.
just breaking even, that's the goal.
Yeah.
If you look at any kind of series, take Renegade for example, you had 60 teams. Last year, for example, there were, and maybe 23 or 24 of them cashed a check.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that, just because you get repeat cashes and
okay,
stuff.
okay.
And then if you looked at that money, maybe 6 teams, 7 teams might have covered their season. These are arbitrary numbers,
For
but
entry fees?
well, you look at entry fees and travel and gas and
So-
hotels.
But what initiative does it have for the newcomer to sign up and go fishing? I'm not picking a Renegade or FLW or any, you know, for them to go and fish those series. You know, it makes it tougher decision making for these guys
Yeah,
that are
for
the
sure,
up and
and
comers.
that's why the walk-ons are a little more interesting. It's unfortunate the pro-ams haven't taken off in Canada because they were starting in the mid-2000s when CFT was running, but unfortunately that kind of bit the dust. But
If we go back 4 or 5 years ago, Corey's, you know, the shootout series, the guys were all telling me in these small lakes up here in the valley region, like they were getting
It was-
85,
It was a
90.
huge
Yeah.
success,
It was
right?
huge
70,
success.
80, 90.
Huge success.
You know, you see the guys
And
with
then
the,
the success starts to limit where you can go. Because you can't put 80 boats on Clayton Lake.
No.
And when you start looking at 89 boats on Mississippi, it's like, oh, wow, this is a bit
It's a
wild.
lot.
But
Yeah,
you're getting,
it's a
but you're
lot.
getting the
So-
guys with
Yeah.
the, but you're getting the guys with the 25s, the 30 horsepower,
Yeah,
50
that's
horsepower.
true, yeah,
you know.
they're all in there.
Now, you know, I think these guys are intimidated, you know, if they pull up, whether it be Franny or Thousand Islands or Rice Lake or whatever, you know, they look at some of these boats and they're saying, you know, they don't wanna, not embarrassment, but it's like they feel
But I
like they're
think
out of
that's
their league.
why you're seeing the downturn on the bigger stuff,
Yeah,
and you're seeing the push towards clubs.
I don't think,
Okay, but that's new
days-
within the last few
Right.
years, because if you look back to when like the first B1 came out, and that year there was 2 or 3 years there was a couple big one-offs, and people got attracted. Like the first B1 sold out 150 people in like 2 weeks. And something changes that causes that to kind of die down.
Because when I fished Renegade the last years, we had 80 teams.
Yeah, when they first came out with the boat,
80 teams, right? And I'm like, wow, this is a real deal. And then it's just been plonk, plonk, plonk. And why is that? Everyone has a different theory. A big part of what I think it is the level of competition. And I think that hurts it. Yeah, it's great that Azumi's coming and Sean Brownridge are coming and Pete Bartnick and Craig are coming and they're coming up here and they're winning stuff, right?
yeah,
So the guys that are coming up that are thinking, well, okay, could I even compete at this level? We've all seen the guys come in, fish for 1 year, and just get absolutely blasted. And they're like, holy,
But-
I am completely out of my league to fish
so
this,
right? What's really neat is you see guys have a few different mentalities. There's guys that want to compete against the best,
Yeah,
and,
for
and
sure.
it makes them work harder. And there's guys that come in and they donate for a few years and then kind of back out.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, and those donators, quote unquote, I hate that, that's terrible.
That is a bad word.
But,
I've donated a
but
lot.
we've all donated
A
at
lot
some
of my
point, right?
Yeah.
So those guys, they're not coming back anymore. And the answer isn't, okay, well, now I'm gonna go fish something bigger.
Yeah,
Right.
They're going down to the
But
club.
they're going down, and you equate it to this, if you played,
Or not.
if you
Or
played
they
it,
disappear.
or they disappear, right?
Yeah.
But if you played house league hockey your whole life, this is the perfect thing to think. You played house league hockey your whole life, now you're gonna play men's league hockey. And you sign up, and your buddy says, come out and play with us, and you show up, and it's all junior A guys and guys that play AA and AAA. How long are you gonna stay there?
10 minutes.
But
So
You're done,
broken
right?
collarbone.
You realize where you belong and where you don't belong. And I think the numbers of the high caliber anglers, especially in this area, I think the numbers are starting to dwindle, and you're seeing that across the tournament.
I agree with you 100%. But when you look at, let's just take the B1 for example. Out of the 125 or 130 guys, whatever they had last year, just look at the names. You know, there's guys like Pete Bowman, Angelo Viola. They do not fish tournaments. You know, these guys are guys, and they're going for. I'm not saying the prestige, but they're going to, you know, they're going to rub shoulders and, you know, be guys, be with everybody. You know, they're not tournament guys. There's a lot of guys on that list. So if you look at the list for the people that fish the B1, and then look at them, the ones that actually went over and fished the Thousand Islands Open, you're not looking at the
It's
same.
not the same guys.
It's not the
No,
same
no, no,
guys.
no.
So it's like
and Ben
East-
has something different going on with the B1 in Quebec
Yeah.
because he's
It's the East
first
versus
year-
the West.
That's right.
and then-
He's the first couple of years he drew a lot of guys from
Correct.
this area, and then now not so much. You don't see a lot of guys.
It's the East versus the West.
That's right. You
but
see, it's mostly Quebec guys. He's got a bunch of guys from
But I
Nova
think-
Scotia. The guys that came from
There's
here.
six
Right.
different provinces, and I'm not here to to sell Ben or 1,000 Islands or anything. But if you look at it, Ben's got a thing going. There's not many tournaments that are offering what B1 is offering. Like with when there's guys putting tournaments on there and they're doing all their video with their cell phones. No disrespect to them, but there's media, there's social images, there's a lot of
Ben-
streaming. He's doing it.
Ben is a machine.
He's a
There's
machine.
no
He's a
debate.
marketing machine,
Yeah.
and that's what he's doing. And I think you need to do that in order to continue. But they, like Charles said, they had a great year, and then they went down to they went down in numbers, and now it seems to be climbing back up. But if you look at the
I
people,
don't think the marketing can account for in my opinion, it's what I look for in tournaments, the depth of payout. B1 pays great in the first 5 spots,
Yeah.
and you're losing money in the 10th or 11th spot. And
Well,
like,
yeah.
I personally don't think about that kind of marketing and
Yeah.
show. I look at the payouts.
you look at the payout,
Yeah.
but when you go buy your Powerball ticket, they're not paying 5 spots, Charles. They're paying 1 spot. And you're buying. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a lottery. You're trying to win that. It's
But it's ROI.
it's return on investment. Don't get me wrong.
100%.
Yeah.
You,
But-
you know,
and-
and I can't imagine what it would be like if I spent 3 or 4 days pre-fishing, 2 or 3 days in the tournament, and I
You're
finish fourth and I get $600.
You're taking.
I would lose my marbles. I spent that much in gas.
If,
Yeah.
Never mind my entry fee. Like what?
here's the
And I'm not just saying B1. I'm just saying any event that's the scenario. That
whether
we
it's
it'd be
Corey
like,
or you gotta expect we're not gonna have if these guys aren't making a little bit of money, we're not gonna have any series left.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
the
Make
sponsors,
money.
you
Don't
know-
make it off the anglers.
Yeah.
Make it off your sponsors.
But I don't think the sponsors are
They're
they're
not
not
giving
there.
I mean,
It's,
that's why you're seeing success in some volunteer organizations.
like RG's tournament. How many guys are you getting for your tournament?
85 last year.
Big Bass Challenge.
But there's no. But
It's
at the end of the day,
it's a
there's no.
one-off.
But there's no. It's not a crime to make money.
No.
These guys. It's not a crime to make money.
And they're
Anybody
happy.
can.
You
do
know, there's-
simple arithmetic knows how much money I make off my tournament. It's not a crime to make money. It's not. Putting this stuff together doesn't happen overnight.
It's a thankless
right?
job.
That's right.
It's a
Really.
thankless job.
So
at the end.
if you do the math,
And there's
it's,
expenses no
they
matter
have to
what
make
you do.
money. If they don't make money, like I can't imagine what Ben's budget would be to have to travel down to all these places and the time investment alone that he must put into his marketing, to the
Like that.
press releases and all this stuff, and then all the proposals he put together to these towns to bring these tournaments here. I can't even imagine the time. If he did the math at the end of the day, everyone, if anyone thinks anyone's getting rich off it,
No.
it's
The B1. Let's face it. The B1 is a business. Ben is a marketing.
at the end of the day, they're all business.
They're all business, right? If I don't think people realize what he's offering. As far as the payouts, yes, it could be a different story. Compared to the Thousand Islands Open, it's not the payout that the Thousand Islands Open is. But what other series is bringing people across 6 provinces or 7 provinces? Canada and the U.S. are registered out. This isn't a series that's just traveling within an hour in Ottawa. It's traveling from
Oh, yeah.
from Valleyfield all the way to Lake Erie now. And I venture to say we're not gonna. I don't know how many people he's gonna have that are gonna do the tour, the complete tour.
Well, when that came out, my question was, how many guys in Ontario, teams, are that committed to it, to travel, to pre-fish, to put that money out? How many teams are there? My guess wasn't 30.
I don't know.
My guess was 30.
It's tough.
30?
They're at.
To do all
They're
of
at
them?
I think he's
To
at
do
15.
all. He's at 15 right now.
He's at
You think
15.
there's 30?
We've seen the bigger events over the last 10 or 15 years, and you've seen the numbers. You just got to look back at history. If you look at the CFT, when it kind of grew a little bit and upped the entry fees and paybacks, the participation dropped. You look at the CSFL Pro-Am series, they were down to 25, 35 votes last year. But what boggles my mind is how somebody can look into this market and say, I want to go start a tournament there, and think they're going to be successful.
I
I
think.
hope he is.
I think if you offer a different quality of
Like anyone that's fished this tournament, I've heard they either love it or you hate it. It's one or the other. There's no in between. There's it's okay. The guys that love the experience, they love it. They say
I think it's the
great.
experience,
Right.
and
But
again,
then you also hear the 4-hour weigh-ins. You got to be on the water at 4:30 in the morning, and all this stuff. And I'll be honest, some guys have told me they won't go back because of that. And that.
and you're gonna have that no matter.
You're
You're gonna
gonna
have it
have
in
it no matter
Renegade.
what,
You're
but
gonna have
those are the
FLW.
scenarios, right?
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
You know, Renegade.
But
Somebody
the
signed
show
up.
he puts
There's
on,
31. We just.
and the marketing ability that he has through the RDS and all that, it's phenomenal.
It's it's not so much the comparison. It's like what other offerings do you have? It's
There's a pile of offerings.
There's a pile in offering,
and
but
that's
it's-
the problem.
what-
That's
what's-
how we started this whole discussion.
what style of offering do you want? You know, it's everybody wants a car, but do they want a Chevrolet or do they want a Porsche or do they want to? Everybody wants to. I think what B1 is offering, they're offering a more elite series, a more as far as fish care and as far as
Oh, we're not getting into fish care, are we?
No, but as far as stuff, what other series
So-
offers?
Go back, we touched on it's all business and people making money behind it. And it's that money that's kind of coming off the top that I think shows less success to like the Bassmaster clubs, where there's no single person taking money. Like our local club's up to 50 people for the last few years.
Yeah.
You look at something like, they call it the Hyper Tour, and it's around Toronto area. It's 3 clubs that have gotten together to form a tour. And I don't know what their numbers are like, but
But it's got to be big.
it's
Yeah.
got to be big numbers. Nobody's taking off the top, and it's being successful. Remember years ago, you used to hear a lot of guys out Toronto way saying, "Why doesn't Renegade come out our way?" And they didn't realize that Renegade was run by local volunteer anglers, and local volunteer anglers in Ottawa aren't going to run a series out there. If you want something out there like that, volunteer and run it yourself. I mean, Renegade's been lucky over the years to have a group of very dedicated volunteers. Who knows what's
That
happening
gets
now?
shit. That gets shit.
It's
It's
a
a
thankless job for
Yeah,
anybody.
it's-
For anybody.
100%. Right? Yeah.
I wouldn't want. To be honest with you, I wouldn't want Corey and Ben's job or the guys around, because no matter what, it's not going to please everybody. If you're trying to
Yeah,
I'm not saying
Absolutely.
you can't
Absolutely.
please everybody. There's always going to be
I mean,
discrepancies.
as an organizer, I mean, they gotta look at the market.
At the end of the day, they got to know what the market, because
What the
marketing
market-
101 is know what your market is and know how to please it. And if you don't know what the market is, then you don't know how to please it. And changes have been made in the last couple of years to events that just didn't need to be changed.
Yeah.
They were already success stories.
One of the
Why
greatest
is it changing?
kind of marketing saw an opportunity and jumped in was a few years ago, when Ottawa Valley Bass used to run open tournaments, we'd get 60, 70 boats. And then some insurance rules came up and we couldn't hold open tournaments anymore. And Laurent Chaput,
yeah.
he saw an opportunity. There was all these anglers,
Wanted to
and he
fish.
jumped in. He created the
Seaboat.
Seaboat was it called? Thank
Yeah.
you. And it was an instant success.
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity. So it's knowing the market and seeing what the anglers want. But again, it goes back to that original statement. Everyone has variables. I only have so much vacation time. Seems like I have a lot.
So when you're looking at your schedule, each one of you, what do you decide? I know Ryan does, but what do you look for in a tournament when you sit down and look at your schedule for the year?
My for the last few years, it's been dedicated to like Renegade and Thousand Islands. So I piece those in first. I establish how much vacation I need for that, and the classic if I make it. And then I kind of piece some other events in.
Clubs.
Club events. I love the local Bassmaster Club. I love the low pressure, low entry fee, super camaraderie ship, and the chance to make it to the classic to move on. And that's how I basically fill my schedule. A couple years ago, I ran into some vacation issues, and I used to fish the Kingston Open all the time, and I had to cut something, and that's just why I had to cut. So there's all kinds of external factors for people.
And Tim?
Well, I look at, first I guess I look at the lake, where is it? There was, the OBN qualifier was on Lake Erie 2 years ago, or was it last
2
year?
years ago.
And a lot of our local guys went, and I was just like, you know, I've never been there. I've never fished there. So, to me, to make that commitment to go ahead, take the time off work, be there for a week, learn some of the water of Lake Erie,
Big water.
30 billion acres,
Yeah.
right? It just, to me, for me, it just didn't make sense. That particular one, say, as an example.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you look at dates, look at what's happening on the Saturday, where to go on the Sunday. You know, is it a big drive? Get home, re-tackle everything, right? So maybe take the day off, one or the other. So that kind of thing. For me, mostly, yeah. I think we agree that if we're here to get rich, we're fools. So I understand you're just
The only guys getting rich are the local.
Yeah,
guys,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Guys,
that's right.
We're rich, right?
We're rich.
I hardly ever think about payouts because
We're rich, right?
yeah. I hardly ever think about payouts because, you know, I'm just possibly more realistic and say, well, okay, if I make any money, then that's a bonus for me.
But at the end of the day, right? Like if for most of the guys,
Yeah.
they're in your situation.
Yes.
Most of the guys. So
Most,
then
yeah.
you're looking at, okay, well, then where do I maybe want to have the most fun? Where do I
Yes.
want to hang out?
Absolutely.
Where my buddies are fishing.
Yeah.
Right? And that probably plays a part of it too, right? I would think.
Yeah.
If you're not always thinking, okay, well, you know, what's the payout? Well, I don't really need, and I do laugh sometimes on Facebook when I see guys complaining about payouts, and I'm like, dude, you haven't cashed a check in
Yeah.
5 years that I've ever seen,
What's
so
the
what are you
problem?
worried about the payout
Exactly.
for?
Yeah.
But I don't say that to him, but
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
so
It's like, for instance, when Corey started running the FLW Canada, and he said, well, the first one's gonna be on Big Rito. Myself personally, one of my most favorite lakes, I live right there, and everything was convenient, so for me to try and do well there, it was super convenient. Less expenses, never seen a hotel being there, right, I'm a 10-minute drive away. Everything lined up perfectly for that. Season 2, the championship was gonna be there again, so for me, at that time, last year, it was like, okay, well, if I put effort into that, I'll have a chance to fish in the championship once again on my home lake.
that's right.
And all that financial stuff, for me, a lot of stuff
absolutely.
revolves around financial.
Yeah.
Mostly taking days off work, super hard for me to do that. So, close to home, I know the water, da-da-da-da-da, all those lined up for me again, so it was like, okay, well, let's do a push
Try
and
it, yeah.
do it. It worked, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, so that's for me, the thing.
So you put all your
But I've
eggs
learned a lot of
into-
new lakes
into
lately.
one basket, really.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah, because time wise, time
Yeah.
restrictions, whatever. Yeah.
Although fishing last year in FLW Canada, I made 6 trips to Peterborough to pre Rice Lake and Tri Lakes. Wow.
Yeah.
So
That's
super,
a haul.
super awesome.
You and
right?
Highway 7.
Yeah, I'm awesome on Highway 7 now, buddy. The truck drives itself. I'm in the back tying lures, the truck's driving. So, but, you know, I learned those lakes as best as I did. My partner and I, Doug Lees, put in a, I think, pretty good effort. Results weren't as good, but we still did well. So.
Can I answer for Ryan?
I can answer for
I
Ryan.
need the hat though. Can I have the hat?
I ain't giving up the visor. I ain't giving up the visor, Charles.
Mine's different. Mine's totally different compared to what these guys look at. You know, when I fished the Pro Bass Canada circuit with Charles last year, it was like he does his homework, and he looks at he's an analytical fisherman from my perspective. He's looking at the charts, the maps. So for him to go and fish Tri Lakes or Magog, it's no problem because he fishes that style and he's analytical and looking at it.
And he can cast.
And he can cast. I can't cast. Yeah, you know, he's got a
I can
spinning.
vouch for that.
He's got a spinning rod. Like I look at it from my perspective, I'm a deep water fisherman, and you know, if it's on Franny or you know St. Lawrence or Thousand Islands, that's my style of fishing. You can take the boy off the Franny, but you can't take the Franny off the boy. You know, so
Hey, and
that's
you'd be crazy not to.
no,
At
and
the end of the day,
really, but would I not love to? You know, I go and look at these terms like I fished the FLW when we qualified. You know, winning Franny, we qualified to come to Big Rito. It's like, it's totally different than what I'm used to. But
I remember you messaging.
yeah, I messaged you 100 times. I was like, Charles, you, everybody, we're going around in circles. The Big Jim, everybody. What do I do? What do I do? How do I cast? You know? And it's just like, but my biggest thing, what I enjoy rubbing shoulders with these guys on Friday night. You know, I think those are the events that are surviving right now, and I think it's guys are looking at it from the camaraderie. You know, to the Thousand Islands Open. You know, you know yourself, Charles. Friday night's a pretty, you know, all the guys are there. You're seeing the guys, the big names and everything. It's exciting. It's fun. You know, there's, you know,
Did you get your hat signed up?
No, I didn't get it signed yet.
Nice.
No.
Charles is-
No, but you know, when you're fishing against guys like Pal and you know,
Oh yeah, I get it, man.
it's exciting.
To
That's
me, they're the best guys around,
And-
right? But is there enough of them to support everything?
Everything that's out there.
well,
At the end of the day, that's what we're gonna find. And
At
to
the end
me,
of
I
the
think this year is the year we're gonna find it.
well, it's the year we're gonna find out. But you know, like I think in every organization and every fishing group, there's leaders and there's followers. And you know, I think the leaders stand up to the pack right off the bat. You know, if you look at the names in the Berkeley B1 Tour, there's some awful big names on that sign-up sheet. Now, how many guys are really going to follow and go through for it? That's going to be a different story, I think, from my perspective.
Like when Chris and Corey,
when you see Chris
when
and Corey
them on there,
Johnson, you know, shit just got real. Pardon the expression.
it did. But how many guys are gonna go? Wow,
Yeah,
no thanks.
yeah. You know, or we
There's two trains on top of that.
And
right?
we were talking about marketing, and you know, like Renegade, they got a great website, and they're, you know, we for fun we pulled up some names today. And when you guys see guys like Lenny that's cashed 36 checks last year, or in the last 5
Last year.
Sorry, in the last 5
He
years.
might have.
What was it?
You got first, fourth, and seventh on dog legs
At the same tournament.
At the same
at
time.
the same time.
We did it 3 times.
But what was it? 30 something we counted?
Yeah,
About
30 some checks in 70 events.
That's
Like,
it's crazy. So is it discouraging for a guy that's just getting to the fishing is it discouraging, you know, for the investment? Yes, it probably is. You know, was there, when we go back to 10 years ago, you guys were saying how big Seabolt was, and there wasn't the social media, and guys weren't able to track like how you were doing and how you were doing. You
Yeah,
read
no,
in the
it's out-
newspaper,
it's
you
out-
read
it's
in the
out there now.
newspaper,
It's-
if you're in the elite top 5, you know, you're intimidating to a guy that's getting into the business. You know,
You're talking about, again, how you choose where you fish. I'll share a story from when I started fishing. I got bit by the bug fishing a local club, and I had this huge drive to move up and move up. And the next progression, so I fished the Ottawa Valley Bass Masters, I fished Bass Anglers of Ottawa, and the next natural progression was Renegade. And I did not fish Renegade because I was scared. I did not want to fish against guys who fished the same lakes for 20 years. I did not want to get in there and donate. So I actually leapfrogged Renegade it was at the Chevy Mercury Tour at the time, became the CFT. And my logic then was, because it was traveling around Ontario, there wasn't as much of a home water advantage.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And in retrospect, it helped me become a better angler because I was challenged on different lakes and then was able to come back and fish locally. But at that time, it was that kind of apprehension to challenge myself against the local talent
Absolutely.
that pushed me away.
Yeah, and when you do, you know, now like we're saying, social media, you see who's winning tournaments. You see the same names all the time. But if you're, you know, you're a guy with a 17-foot boat with a 135 on it,
or Tiller.
or a
Or a 300 tiller. Twin 300s.
But you're that guy, right? And to make the jump, to commit to fish either one of these bigger events or to fish a series such as Renegade, when you can fish one-off shootouts, or you can fish, you can join a club, you can fish a myriad of other options, they're maybe going to lean away from that kind of stuff, right?
I think another problem is when it comes into series, I think there's a problem because everybody's busy now. You know, you just look at social media, everybody's got hobbies, you know, they got families and stuff like that. And I see like these one big tournaments like Thousand Islands Open, they're drawing people. That's like a weekend away.
Yeah, but
You
I
know?
don't buy that because when I'm guiding, I see the guys fishing regardless. And one of the biggest things, like Renegade, I can tell you, just they played around with schedules to try and get to appease guys. Then they tried okay, we're gonna do back to back, so we don't do
So we don't take up too much.
so we don't take too much of your time. Well, all these guys were all still fishing regardless.
Yeah.
Every weekend they fish no matter what. That's what they do. So if the schedule wasn't there that weekend, well, they'd go fish something else, right? So if they had open weekends, okay, well, they'd pre-fish during the week, and then they'd fish whatever tournament they could get in on the weekend. So moving the schedule around and saying, well, I'm not, it's too much of a commitment, family time, that's a pile of crap, because those guys were fishing all over every weekend. Anything they could fish, they would fish. They would, once June hits until mid-September, every weekend those guys, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Right?
So
The big
what
one
we
off.
love to do, right?
Big-
That's what
so
you
it's
do,
a,
right?
so it's a one-off. So why is there tournaments with only 30 boats in it today? Why is there series that are run with 30 boats in it? Those guys are going to be fishing somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they
For
are.
sure. They're
For
fishing
sure they
somewhere.
are. For sure they are.
There might be in another tournament because there's 7 tournaments going on that day.
Do you believe
Or
we're
there
flooded
might
with
be.
tournaments in the region, Charles?
Pardon
Do you
me?
believe it's?
Oh, hell. We just did every year our Bassmaster Club sits down to choose our tournament waters, and we wait till everyone's picked their dates, and then we try and work around them. And it actually wasn't that hard this year because there was literally only 5 dates available
Yeah.
that
We had
weren't
no choice
overly.
to pick those ones.
Yeah, like there are dates. I formulate a calendar every year to help me kind of manage what tournaments I'm going to cherry pick.
Did he just say he cherry picked?
Yeah.
I don't mean cherry pick. I mean
Cherry
participate in
picking.
whatever I can fit in my
You
schedule.
cherry picking?
Our Jane Birdie's Outdoors cannot be responsible for anything that.
Yeah, hey, hang on. We do have a disclaimer.
Yeah, we have a
Go ahead,
disclaimer.
Charles. Please. Just yeah. Go ahead.
The views and opinions expressed this evening are not necessarily the views and opinions of RJ and Birdie's Outdoors.
Thank you. Continue.
I forgot what oh, right. So I make this calendar every year where I literally put every tournament within about 150 kilometers. And I have dates with like 8 tournaments going on. Stuff that like directly conflicts.
Somebody did the
with-
math a couple of years ago. How many? Would they pick the top one of the busiest days in Ontario, and counted the number? Was it you, Roger? That in the
No, it wasn't
ballpark.
me.
They had ballparked how many boats there was, and there was
In a tournament?
in a tournament,
Oh.
and they dumped there was like 6 tournaments that weekend,
Yeah.
and they said the number was around 300 to 400, and that was I find that number hard to believe.
I'd
but-
like to find how many tournament anglers we have in Ontario. And one day I wanted to actually
Well,
try
what
and go
dictates a
through
tournament angle?
results.
What
What dictates
dictates-
in the club?
I'd say any club level up.
Yeah.
Because in theory, anybody in a club is looking to get into the sport, or they've been in a while, so that is someone who might be interested in fishing either at that level or the next level or another level. Is it
Teams? Or are we talking anglers?
how would you break it down? If you went anglers, is there 1,200 tournament anglers?
That number's probably pretty close. I was gonna say
I'd like to take it down in that because no disrespect, but it's probably 1,200 tournament anglers. But if you look at how many of these guys actually own boats, it's like you had just touched on. Pro-Ams would be great. Now you and I, there's lots of guys that fish tournaments up in this area here, and there's you see them in the Renegade series or whatever series it is, and they only have one boat. The partner doesn't have a boat, so that
in some cases.
in some cases.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing the tough part that I see that you had just touched on. Hey, let's put a Pro-Am
But
up here.
most of the hardcore guys both have boats.
They
You
both have
and
boats.
Doug both have boats. You and
Yeah.
Matt both have boats.
I have 2.
You have 2.
Yeah,
One for each arm.
Just as-
I have a tiller.
But yeah, so say there's 1,200
Anglers. So
anglers, so there's 600 teams.
yeah.
It might be more than that because I think the Ontario Federation is 600 or 700. The CBF Federation is probably arbitrary guess 200. And then maybe 1,200 is a good guess. But how do you?
How do you get them all in one?
There's the pie.
I think
That's the pie, right?
That's the
so
pie.
you take 1,200, and now you need,
It's-
for what's going on right now, between the big 3, which we'll call them, FLW Canada, the B1, and Thousand Islands Open. Plus, we're not, no respect to Andy stuff, disrespect to Andy stuff, but he's still got Simcoe Open and
Yeah.
that stuff all going on too, right? So those big 3 plus what Andy has going on, if there's only 1,200, and if only, call it 300 are in their mindset that they can fish this stuff, how can that pie be spread? and everyone be successful.
I think the unfortunate thing is, I think some of these guys, and this is just from my personal opinion, it might not be with respect to the viewers, but I don't understand why the Renegades of the world and the FLWs of the world and the B1s of the world haven't all gotten together, whether it's a consortium at the beginning of the year and say, listen,
I'll tell you
guys,
what.
we
I'm going to tell you
know.
what. And I've
I-
seen
I-
this.
yeah,
I can
we-
tell you,
we could,
it's been said 100 times. That's what we need to. It needs to get better.
Yeah.
We need to build something. It needs to. My argument is, what in this market deserves anything better than we have right now? You have 1,000 lines open, 100% payback guaranteed plus the boat. Ben's at like 200% payback
Yeah.
somewhere near there.
Yeah.
FLW sending people to the US, and you want something better?
Yeah.
Like it's phenomenal, and you're
it's
not
there.
selling out. It's there. You're not selling out. Nobody's
I think-
selling out what they have.
I think you're going to see
The
it.
market's just not there. The
I think-
market's not there. It's not those guys' fault. It's not. It's just. It's too much.
I mean,
it's just at the end of the day, it's too
the
much.
whole Canadian industry, the bass industry, obviously started before the U.S. and is kind of bred on the U.S. But we're a different culture.
We are.
We don't have the people. It's not inbred in people aren't raised fishing. Like when I travel down the States and you go by a trailer park with people living in single wides that have $50,000 boats and $40,000 trucks because that's their culture.
Yeah.
Here
But-
it's
Like Ben had mentioned to me just the other day, I was asking, I said, Ben, how many provinces are we getting people from? And he's got 6 provinces.
Are we?
Or the B, sorry,
Are
is the
we?
B, is the B1. Don't be political. Is the B1 getting people from? So he
Yeah.
said 6 provinces. He goes, but Ryan, he goes, I'm doing 6 shows this year. So he's going to be doing, and he plans on targeting the U.S. market. Now, just to touch on that, why are we, like, how, in the 1,000 Islands Open, there's a few U.S. names there,
Yeah.
but for the payouts, some of these payouts, like 1,000 Islands Open, is equivalent to the Bassmasters, or not, not big dollar wise, but FLW series wise. And why are we not getting more anglers up to this region? Like I know, I know Ben is.
I don't think it was marketed very well in the U.S.
Yeah.
Why we don't, I don't know why. I mean, it's all that list of things: travel, time, body of water. Some people don't like the St. Lawrence. Some people don't want to fish against the sticks. They
Yeah.
know the St. Lawrence so well. I mean, all these things come into play.
But why won't they work together? Because that's like asking Chevy and Dodge and Ford to get together
Yeah.
and make the perfect vehicle.
Yeah,
It's never gonna happen.
I won't.
Because it's a business.
You
At
have
the end of the day, they're all on their own and they're all doing their own thing.
You have different heads driving each ship with different mandates.
That's
And
right.
that's what it comes
That's
down
what
to.
it is.
But if you
Ryan,
go-
that's fine,
But if you go back
Like
10
if
years,
somebody came to me and said, "Hey man, we should work together and we're going to do an event in the fall together," why would I? Why would I involve anybody else in what I'm doing?
well, clearly all they did is erode the market share. We
Well,
we
that just because the market's not there at the end of the day.
yeah,
See, if somebody like, and again, I don't think it's gonna happen because you have different heads driving ships. If somebody like Renegade and Pro Bass Canada got together, because they're
Yeah.
geographically close, and said, you know what, let's plan our schedule so we don't overlap, and let's offer a 10% discount on entry fees for people that fish both. Would that maybe not get a few more people involved? I don't know if it would. Now that I think about it, I don't know if it would. But that type of little bit of cooperation is so hard to get, and you see it sometimes with Pro Bass Canada was a stepping stone into the FLW Championship last year. Pro Bass Canada used to be a stepping stone to the Chevy Mercury Championship. So you see it a little bit, for the most part, no.
it was funny because Big Jim made a post the other day. He was laughing. He was saying about his trophies and the checks. And he said,
I dust them.
You dusted them?
once a month.
I just want to hold them. I just want to hold them. But Big Jim said he fished tournaments and there was always 300 people. Pete Bowman said the same thing. So it's like, where were these guys? Were around 20
Because
years
there
ago.
was 1 or 2 tournaments
Yeah.
a year.
What was it? The O'Keefe series.
And it was
or
OV series, right?
Exactly, and it was
That's what
different,
right?
like, and I wasn't around back in those days, I only got into it in around 99, 2000, so I don't know, but I've heard stories about, you had events where like the Linders were coming from
Yeah, they'd come up,
Minnesota
yeah.
to Rice Lake to fish tournaments. Cause you had, I believe it was called Bass Ontario at the time, where you had the television coverage, you had boats being given away, you had corporate sponsor dollars.
That's right.
And the fact is the world's changing, and the world has changed, and that.
Because now, like it used to, like, because I talked to Jimmy about it, and he said, yeah, man, like we used to have 500 people show up at Rito Ferry for a weigh-in. And thing is now, you could show up to Rito Ferry any weekend of the year and there's gonna be a weigh-in,
Yeah, that's true. No, you're
Yeah,
right, man.
that's
right?
That's
So it's not a big deal anymore.
100%.
It's not a big deal
Yeah.
for, it's not,
Yeah.
there's no draw, like, I don't care what tournament there is, nobody's showing up to watch it other than mom and dad and boyfriend, girlfriend, that's who shows up to watch it. So, as far as sponsors and corporate
And that's-
sponsors
and
and
that-
bringing
that's-
it out, there's no return on investment for somebody to cut a big check
Sponsors
to,
aren't giving money.
it's not
Sponsors
just,
And you know what? To talk to the sponsor thing, I heard a story. You say sponsors aren't giving money, perhaps because they're not seeing the support from the anglers.
Yeah.
I've heard one story where a sponsor was looking to re-up with an organization, and they said, okay, let's go through our books and see how much business we've got from this organization. Look at their anglers, look at our records, and I believe it was 0.
Yeah.
In like 4 or 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And, I mean, sponsors, that's what they look at.
at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that's what they look at.
And
But in that case where they're seeing 0 return, and I can tell you, I know of one store that I've had this conversation with where they give out, every year they give out gift
We don't
certificates.
need to get into detail.
I'm not kidding, they give out gift certificates, right? Whatever that number is. And he's told me he's had guys walk in and literally spend to the penny of what that gift card is.
Yeah, see, that's not support.
That's not support. And he's just like, I don't, like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Right?
And I came into the industry all bright on bushy tail, thinking I was gonna be the next Izumi. Wrong. But, I believe one of the kind of incidents where I realized how kind of messed up the industry is, CFT ran a pro-am, a free pro-am, 0 entry fee. Gave away a $20,000 boat. 30 pros signed up.
wow.
30 pros. And I mean, I signed up. I was eager and gung ho. I practiced 2 days. I was terrible. Dave Chong won it. Good job, Dave.
Yeah, Chonger again.
Chonger
again, yeah.
And I left that tournament thinking, how does that happen? Where here's free entry fee into a tournament with an opportunity to win a $20,000 boat with television coverage, and nobody showed up.
Wow. I think that's where you're seeing, you know, there's always going to be leaders in the sport and followers in the sport. And I think, you know, it's like the Thousand Islands Open, you know, with the coverage like JP DeRose offers, you know, WFN and stuff like that. Like that's some big.
That's real.
That's huge.
That's
Real.
exposure.
That's
That's
real.
not Facebook exposure
you know.
to 500 people. That's real.
You
Real
know,
numbers, right?
and-
And at the end of the day, and then now I don't know whether it's public or not, but the whole Renegade season is being televised and going to WFN.
And we're still only at
And
31 teams.
31
I mean,
teams.
that's true. You have sponsors. You want to make headway in the business. Here's television exposure. That's true exposure, and people aren't doing it. So what the solution is, who knows?
I don't know where it's going.
I think for the most part that maybe we're on a panic button a bit too much right now. It's February. I think if you look at the year ago dates, they're probably on track. I know FLW is for a year ago. So
you know,
there's
that's,
a bit more dilution now that the B1's come over into Ontario, so that will tell March, April, May as the closing time gets closer. You're gonna really know by then. But
but if we go back to when we at the beginning of the conversation, you know, if you look at the B1 names and then you look at some of the Thousand Island Open names, these guys are not fishing, you know, the common events. You know, I clearly believe if we went
Well,
through
there's a group of guys that
There's a
all
group of
they
guys-
fish is big stuff.
the big
That's
names.
all they fish.
Is it
Stroob and all this? They only
And-
fish Clemson and the Johnsons. Like the Johnsons are coming up here to fish
Yeah.
small stuff. They only fish the big stuff, right? Well, why would they waste their time, really?
If you talk to some of the grizzled veterans, Ernie Jensen, I love the guy, godfather of tournament fishing, to me. He would like to fish a 2-day tournament every weekend for $2,500 entry fees with 20 guys.
Wow.
That's what he would like to do. But that's the level he's at.
Yeah.
I believe if you look at the pyramid of fishing anglers, that's the top echelon that want to do that. The guys down here, they don't have the money or time to do that. I mean, you look at top bass. Top bass was consistently 150, 120, 150, a lot of boats for the last few years. Because their entry fees were like $130. And they were on local lakes that everybody knew.
That's the model.
That's the model.
To me, that's the
Look at-
model.
look
I
at
mean, I don't know what the payouts are,
Look
didn't
at the
it
Lefebvre
that
tournament.
way.
But at the end of the day, right, $130 entry fee, those guys are sitting back and looking at payouts. To them, it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm going to
That's
turn.
a,
For
we're,
most
we're gonna
of
win
I'm
$500 or
com- I'm
$600.
competing, man.
Yeah,
This is just like the guy that played hockey and now
yeah.
he can play competitive hockey. He wants something to do and he loves to fish. That little competitive spirit, $130.
And,
He's just probably gonna spend more on gas.
Yeah.
than his entry fee.
but
right?
then you look at you look at that Lefebvre tournament, the early Lefebvre tournament that's on in the air.
Yeah.
Like, look at the people that are getting the traction. They get a beer garden, they get a tent, and and I think that's that's a big thing. I think that's I don't know, that's a key thing with Renegade. If you look at the Pro Bass Canada series, at the end of the tournament, everybody's sitting around. Hey guys, we're having a beer. They're talking. It's more of a group of guys. It's camaraderie. It's a friendship thing. It's everybody knows everybody.
See,
It's a different culture.
It's a different
I've
culture.
been-
Culture. in
I've been
Ontario.
to 3 weigh-ins in the last 2 years, just because I'm busy with everything else. I turned to Birdie, we're sitting there. I said, just look around. She looks around. I said, just look at people.
Yeah.
So I said, everyone looks pissed off. Everyone that you look, tournament organizer looks like he's pissed off. All the anglers are pissed off.
Yeah.
The guys that aren't getting checks, trunk slamming, they're going home.
Yeah.
They're already out the street. You look around, everyone else is standing there like this. Yeah, they fish for 9-10
It's a long
hours.
day, yeah.
It's a long day, but everyone there looked pissed off, and it just kind of hit me. I'm like, Jesus, when I fished tournaments, is that what I look? Probably. It's
I
you're not
think-
getting a check. You've just worked, your whole season's been put into the eggs of this basket,
Yeah.
and everyone's just pissed off. I'm like, how much fun are these guys really having? At the end of the day, how much fun is it? I'm like, holy, this doesn't look like a lot.
It's
And to the outside, if someone came and walked up to that weigh-in, it was just like, what is this, right? From the general public point, I was just like,
There was definitely a transition for me when it went, not all the time, but sometimes the tournaments work for me. I gotta be on point, I'm putting effort in, and I'm upset when it's not successful. It's not always fun.
yeah.
And is it the same for you?
Yeah,
It's
oh,
like
yeah.
You come home and you're pissed
Yeah.
until you wake up the next day and you're looking forward to the next tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that way for sure.
We are a messed up group of people.
Yes, you are.
speak for themselves.
Nice.
But getting back to the one-offs, right? Like events like MS Bass,
Yeah.
50 teams. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, everyone's smiling.
Low key,
Low
pressure.
key, low pressure.
Just smiling because of the barbecue.
Yeah, well, it's good.
It's an awesome
it's-
event.
right?
It's
It's a
super
great
awesome
event, right?
event,
So stuff like that, boom. So, it's not even a question. He sells out, right? And it's getting back to that style of event, maybe the model. I don't know, but the bigger stuff,
For a while, I thought the bigger stuff, the big one-offs were gonna be the deal. And it looked like, and then the support just started kind of leaning a bit.
But if you look at it from a business standpoint,
oh, it has to be the big stuff.
the big
It doesn't
stuff
make any
it has
sense.
to be the big stuff. But then you look if you look at it twofold, you look at the Thousand Islands Open, and you look at the payouts, and you look at the returns, and you look at the anglers. It's like there's no way, unless there's some big sponsorship donations given, there's no way they can be a viable business.
No, not long term.
Yeah.
Not long
So,
term.
as an angler, if you look at that and see what's happening, if you're not supporting it and then it goes away,
Shame on you.
Yeah,
shame
no
on you.
right to complain.
Okay, you have no right to complain.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is, we're always complaining about this tournament or that tournament, this tournament, but when they're gone, and there's nothing to fish, then we'll be,
Oh, and the effort involved is.
it's a thankless job. Like, you look at, hey, Renegade, they put on a pretty good show. Like you just said, they're going to do this televised this year, and they got Big Jim, and they got some, they make it fun for the audience, but they're not getting the audiences. I don't
there's
think they're getting.
there's no
There's
audience.
20. There used to be at one time probably.
There's no audience. There's
200, 300. Now
never,
there's-
never really been an audience. Because at the end of the day, and I posted this on Facebook not that long ago. Is like at the end of the day, how many people can tell you who won the Renegade Classic 2 years ago, who won the B1 Classic 3 years ago, and who won the FLW Championship, the Rumelfer Ranger 3 years ago?
Just a few anglers.
Very few people,
Yeah.
because general public
They don't
doesn't
know.
care.
Yeah,
They don't know and they don't care.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't resonate with, you know, personalities don't resonate, the competitive
And again,
nature of
that's,
fishing.
that's our Canadian culture or lack of
Oh,
media
100%.
exposure.
Yeah, 100%, but that's the reality. So from a marketing point of view, for a sponsor to jump on board is, it doesn't,
It's a bit suicidal, right?
it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, right? Like,
I agree 100%.
it's tricky.
Like going forward,
I don't know what changes.
I don't know what changes either.
I don't know what changes.
And we're not here to solve the world's problem.
No.
We're not here to solve
No.
You know,
What is gonna change? I don't know what's gonna change.
Well,
It's gonna
I
be-
think you're right though when you said we'll find out in September what happens.
That's right. This is the, like Ben going across the province, and he's gonna steal some teams from Renegade, which he already has. He's gonna steal some teams from Corey at FLW. He's probably gonna steal some teams from Andy
and
Sincool,
you see
but
it,
you know, but
you know what I mean? And you're just spreading it even more thin.
That's the
We're
biggest
gonna,
problem.
we're gonna find out.
but you
That
know,
is the pollution of the marketplace of
Yeah.
tournament fishing with so many choices.
Yeah.
So many.
how many series tournaments does Renegade have for now? What are they at? 5
Four,
or 6?
four in a classic.
4 in a classic.
Classic.
And realistically, we keep throwing Renegade in the mix. I don't think Renegade really affects those other tournaments.
No,
I think those other tournaments affect, but I don't think it's the other way around, right? So we keep saying Renegade, but I don't think Renegade's all that relevant to affecting those tournaments. But you're not getting guys.
No,
I
but you
don't
look at
fish Renegade,
Stronger,
so
look
I'm
at-
not fishing that.
But
right?
you look at the B1 Tour, Stronger and Devos are signed up for Babe Quinny, so it's like they're both finishing both fishing Renegade. So you
Yeah,
know, I
because
don't
the
really
dates lined up.
the dates
Yeah.
lined up,
Right.
But those guys are
And that's what, I mean, if people are smart and they look at the dates, then there's gonna be more options.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have our season's this big.
Yeah.
I mean, we all,
That's the other limiting factor.
yeah,
right?
come middle of September, nobody wants,
Well,
80% of
okay,
people don't
so,
wanna fish.
So let's talk, is it that I can run a tournament mid-October and sell it out 85 boats
season's over.
without even an issue?
Season's over
Why?
because
Well-
Renegade's done, B1's done, FLW's done, and the
wouldn't-
guys are sitting there itching. It's like
As a
LaFave-
fish, no,
it's like the
I
LaFave
know
tournament.
why they come to my tournament, because they're itching. But why not keep them itching?
Dude,
Why
I-
end it? Because all of them end the weekend after Labor Day. Wouldn't you love to have a classic in November?
Yeah, well,
Sportsmen-
November's a little pushy.
I think
No,
that-
but
but
late October,
later,
like,
for sure.
Why?
We-
like
we-
the fishing is arguably the best of the year at that point, right? There's no cottagers to yell at you. There's no sea doers. There's no pleasure boats.
I think anglers.
You
and-
get the lake to yourself.
I think anglers and hunters might overlap a little bit, and I think that's the myth.
Yeah,
Whether
but
you know Charles is a hunter, I'm a hunter, so you know what I mean. It's
But
a
you're
it's a
still-
little.
If you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how I look at it.
Would you say there's a good chunk of your field that aren't part of that Renegade Shootout B1 market?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So you're drawing from a
100%.
little bit bigger pie.
Yeah.
And an event like yours being a one-off, it's cheap entry fee.
How much is the entry?
Format is
200 bucks.
The
totally
format.
different.
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
one
for sure.
Every hour.
It's one cast makes
Yeah.
makes you
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know your market.
Yes.
Know your market.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
So you're.
But I think if he did that same tournament in August,
Oh, dude.
It would
you
work.
have no idea how many people have asked me to run a series.
Oh no.
Really?
Really?
One a month.
Oh my gosh.
See,
I've had guys say one a month, I'll
I-
fish every one.
I wouldn't think it would go in the summer.
wow.
I just believe that's just
They
my
love the format. And I don't think it has anything to do that it's me running it or how much it costs or whatever. They love the format of the tournament.
I hate
Because-
that format.
Yeah, but guys
sorry.
that
You
don't,
hate
yeah, it drives you crazy.
I can't,
Like it's
yeah.
either way, right?
Yeah.
But a guy that fishes my tournament, for the most part, he knows if he fished any other tournament in the area, he's probably not going to catch a check. But that guy knows that he can cast that Senko.
Yeah.
If he gets one bite, he's just made 5 times his entry fee.
Yeah.
And guys love it because,
It's
and
a,
if I held a tournament
it's a
in
bigger
October,
gamble,
that's right.
but it's a
if
better
I held a
reward.
5-fish tournament in October, I bet you I wouldn't get $50.
You'd have less turnout. Yep.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
yeah,
And that tournament last year, 24 hours.
Sold out.
that's incredible. That's
85
incredible.
bucks.
It's nuts, man.
Because you're appealing to a wider group of people
Yeah.
than.
Can we put in a no Senko rule for your tournament this year?
Ah,
No Gary Yamamoto's? No Gary Yamamoto's in your tournament?
There was, I don't know how many.
Can we troll?
last year.
Can we
Few.
troll?
a few.
Jigfish,
10.
drop shot fish. But
Can you do it on Franny?
no, too far.
I caught my fish on a jackal crosstail shad.
Pimping ain't easy, man.
This conversation was brought to you by Gajo Baits and Aquaview.
No, but at the end of the day, I think, I don't know where we went with all this, but I think
We'll see. We'll
Good
see.
discussion.
we're gonna see at the end of the year where this all is. So just in closing, I don't think we solved anything tonight, but I think it's a pretty cool discussion, really.
It's a great discussion. I believe this discussion goes on all over Ontario. Guys are talking about
It probably does.
I think the biggest thing is with the discussion, it just gets uncivil, in social media,
Wow.
and that's where the bickering and the
The
belittling
worst
starts.
is when guys start talking, let's bring back the good old days.
Yeah.
Well, the guys that are talking about the good old days don't know what the good old days
they
were.
weren't there.
And,
They weren't there,
Yeah,
right?
they weren't
Or
there.
something I've seen recently, some guy saying, I don't know what series you're talking about, he said, what this series needs is a big sponsor.
Yeah.
Not understanding the business behind it.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Or
So,
the times have definitely changed, and I'm not, when you get those comments of the guys who are saying they're dinosaurs, well, you know what? Those dinosaurs paved this road where we are. So we're sitting here today for them, So that's.
so maybe we'll come back in November and rehash
It's
this
a good idea.
to
It's
see
a very good idea.
how the numbers play out.
I think you're gonna see
We
a
could be
sellout
back
for
here.
Thousand Islands Open.
We'll be back here in November, we can congratulate Tim on winning the FLW
The FLW
championship.
championship.
We can congratulate Ryan on winning multiple B1s.
No, unless it's on Franny. Unless it's on
Unless
Franny.
they've changed
Don't take it off
location, all of
Franny.
And myself, I'm winning a
Like,
ranking.
All the
And,
B1 tournaments are now on Franny.
And if Renegade wants to have all 5 tournaments on Franny,
You're in?
I'm in.
It's all good. So anyways, thanks guys. Hope you like this. I don't know. If you want us to do more of this stuff, I can get more jackasses like these guys. to come out.
They're easy to lure with pizza.
Yeah. All it took was 2
Easier
pizzas
than
and,
fish.
and a salad for Ryan.
Birdie, can I get some more salad, please?
It's all good. Thanks guys, and have a great tournament season. Wherever you end up going. Hope they all fill out. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good luck to all.
Good luck to everybody.
Cool.